It is that time of year again.
Spooky season. Yes, I love me some history mystery segments. This one is a stranger than fiction mystery.
Today we bring you the case of Belchase John Doe.
Ooh, spooky! Today's history mystery is one that hits very close to home, quite literally, because it happened like right here in Plaquemines Parish, where we filmed The Buzz at Leia Imaginarium Studios. Check us out online. It is one of those cases that with each verified fact comes like 10 more questions.
We have compiled all of the known evidence in this case, and very much like those who investigated the case, we have come up with more questions than answers.
A lot more. On Valentine's Day in 1975, a couple was traveling along the woods and Naomi, near where the Alliance refinery is now, located just south of Belchase.
They noticed a white shape shimmering through the trees. They stopped to look at the white cloth in the distance, illuminated by moonlight, and walked through the mud for a closer look, thinking that something may have become snagged in the branches of the tree from the heavy rainstorm that had happened for the past 3 days in a row.
Wading through mud to get closer to the trees, they found something truly horrifying. The body of a young man hanging from the limb of a tree, a bedsheet tied around his neck.
It would seem that he had committed suicide by hanging himself with a bedsheet
Or did
from
he?
a person. Will you let me finish my sentence?
Sorry, I'm excited.
From a persimmon tree. It's a police sketch.
Aha, strange fact number 1. A persimmon tree is an interesting choice since there are so many other trees in that area and very few persimmon trees. Did you know that the word Plaquemines Parish actually means persimmon? No? Okay, cool.
Didn't know that.
It is not even a well-known fact today, so I mean, I can't imagine it was in 1975. But Plaquemines literally translate to persimmon. And who traveled all the way here to hang himself from a lone persimmon tree in the middle of all of the other oak trees and other trees that he could have chosen?
Okay, Jackson.
The John Doe.
Strange fact number 1, noted.
Thank you.
Newspaper articles and police reports from the time state that the young man was about 16 or 17 years old, slender build, and 6 feet tall. Leaning against the trunk of the tree was a large glass jar with a lid on it. Inside of the sealed jar were papers which later would be determined were notes to his parents and law enforcement. He wore a yellow and maroon shirt, blue pants, mismatched socks, and no shoes. All of his clothes were clean, well fitted, and well maintained.
Aha, strange fact number 2!
Wait, already?
Yes, already! So, he was found with mismatched socks and no shoes.
Some people like to wear mismatched socks. That's not really a...
As a matter of fact, it is stated that no shoes were found anywhere near him or the trees, and they never recovered any shoes at all from the scene, in spite of a 3-day investigation in search of the entire area. It also states that his socks were mismatched, but perfectly clean. The areas where he was found were extremely muddy, and the witnesses who found him even mentioned how muddy the ground was walking over to the scene, and that it had been like that for at least 3 days from all the rainfall. They said that, well, his time of death was within 12 hours of him being found. You following me on this?
Yes, I'm with you.
Also, if he was not from the area and no one in the whole South Louisiana area could identify him and no vehicle was found, then did he walk all the way with no shoes?
Right, and even if he hitchhiked, I mean, a guy carrying a bedsheet, a large glass jar, full of paper, and no shoes would be someone that people would remember giving a ride or walking down the side of the road. And also, his socks are perfectly clean, so even if he did hitchhike, did he find a washing machine and clean his socks
Did he have
after?
spares? Exactly, that's right. And no one came forth to say that they had saw him or had given him a ride or anything like that.
Literally, if he walked in his socks or had gotten a ride or hitchhiked, his socks would not be clean. Even if it had not been muddy under the trees, he still would have had to get there and his socks wouldn't be clean. So, no one saw him walking there, no one gave him a ride, and no shoes were found.
Also, it was winter time, and, well, it was stormy. It's Louisiana, you know. The Farmer Almanac says it's supposed to be cold, but we here in Louisiana know otherwise. And he has no shoes! Well, it's stormy! Okay, you know, back to the facts.
Relax a little bit here. The papers in the jar turned out to be lengthy suicide notes. In one that was addressed to Mom and Dad, he wrote in part, "When you stop growing, you are dead.
Yeesh.
I stopped growing long ago. I never did develop into a real person, and I cannot tolerate the false and empty existence that I have created."
Wow. Very eloquent for a 16-year-old.
Yeah, you think?
Go on.
In his notes to law enforcement officers, he said, "You are bound to preserve domestic peace and order. If you pursue who I was and spend hundreds of dollars, you will accomplish little. There are no legal consequences of my death or any kind of entanglements. All that can happen is that you will shatter the domestic peace and order of two innocent lives. Do not deprive them of the hope that their missing son will return. Let it be as if I wasn't ever here. Simply cremate me as John Doe."
Wow. So, it's as if he begged law enforcement not to investigate his death and to just rule it a suicide and just leave it alone.
Yes, either he did or whoever wrote the note did. That's how it sounds.
His note goes on to say, "It is best if I cease to live quietly, than risk that later I will break and shatter by violence or linger years under care. I implore you to see a psychiatrist in order that you might understand my death and my life. Ask thoroughly about what I was, and you will see that it is not tragic that I am gone, but more natural than if I continued."
That is so sad.
Very.
I agree that what he wrote does not sound like a typical 16-year-old, though.
It doesn't. Strangely. It sounds less and less like a teenager the more I think about it. I mean, listen to this. He also included a section of the note entitled, "Why You Should Not Feel Responsible." I know, pretty heavy-handed title, I know.
Yeah, oh yeah.
In which he explained, "I was born with a definite, pervasive melancholy. What frustrated me most in the last year was that I had built no ties to family or friends. There was nothing of lasting worth and value. I led a detached existence, and I was a parody of a person, literally and figuratively. I didn't tell jokes. I was a joke."
I found it interesting that the note even cited the works of Emile Durkheim, the famous philosopher and psychologist. He mentioned that Emile defined suicide as an inner direction of homicidal feelings against someone else.
Yeah, put a pin in that because we will discuss that later too. The note continues with, "I am no longer interested in the world and know that it is not interested in me. When you stop growing, you are dead. I stopped growing a long time ago. I am a bomb of frustration and should never marry or have children." Heavy-handed stuff. "It is safest to defuse the bomb harmlessly now. I do not want to bother with being a reformed and cured person limping through life. I am this self-centered." Wow!
Wow, that is heavy stuff.
Very!
On severed paper, he told his parents, "You have provided me with excellent advantages and privileges and experiences. I am extremely grateful for all of your sacrifices, time, and support. I am now repaying you with an arrogant act. In this light, I do see it as criminal. I can only hope that you see that it was me who caused it."
So he mentions several times and in a bunch of different ways that he has done awful things and feels like he is saving humanity further damage by taking his own life.
You have to wonder what that was about, and if its reference to suicide being homicidal desires turned on yourself is something of a confession or just a fear that he would do it. It is all it's very strange.
Very.
It's a strange story full of twists and turns. Unfortunately, in 1975, DNA processing of unidentified remains was not really a thing, so no DNA samples were taken.
They did take fingerprints, and Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office also sent them all around the country attempting to find a match. Yeah, no match was found.
After the Associated Press published an article, over 300 sets of parents with missing sons of that age range came from across the country to the area to view the remains of the young man in the Algiers funeral home. He was not identified. It was placed in a plain wooden casket and buried in an unmarked grave in a Greta cemetery. It seems like his wish of not being identified came true. There are a few subjects that match his age and description on the missing persons list. The best candidates that we could find are Bayard William Cousins. Cousins was 22 when he went missing, just 2 weeks before John Doe was found.
Interesting.
His height is listed as 6'2". John Doe is listed as about 6 feet. His weight was 160 pounds, which matches the John Doe weight. He was last seen February 1st, 1975 in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and you'll recall that John Doe was found on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
So, Bayard Cousins left his residence while his parents were out of town. They came back to a note stating not to worry about him. There were no indications of any issues with Bayard prior to his disappearance. He has never been seen or heard from again. Bayard is fluent in Spanish and was an ecology activist. His physical description is dark brown hair, hazel eyes. He had a cross-shaped scar on an unknown finger of an unknown hand, and he wore glasses. Unfortunately, all records for the Bayard case have been lost. We will list the source links to all of the information in the description for anyone that wants to follow up.
The other candidate for the idea of John Doe is Perry Otto Corlew.
Here's the photo of him.
What a guy. He was 18 years old when he went missing from, Grayling, Crawford County, Michigan on March 15th, 1974. His height is listed anywhere between 6'2" to 6'4", and his weight was somewhere between 155 and 165 pounds. His hair is brown, his eye color is green, and he has a light complexion and very thin build. He smashed his left thumb in a car door when he was young. Ouch! He wears glasses, his shoe size is 12 and a half, and DNA is available, so it would have been possible to compare DNA to John Doe if the grade site, could be located and a viable sample could be attained, which it can't because we don't know where he was buried. Unfortunately, his dental records were lost when they were sent to Plaquemines Parish. To compare to the dental records of John Doe. Exactly. The original dental records were sent and no copies exist. All records for the John Doe case have also been lost since 2005 due to Hurricane Katrina. See, it's getting more interesting. We will post links to this case and the sources of the information and records in the description below.
So the question remains, who was Belchase John Doe and what exactly happened to him?
What are your thoughts or comments? Do you have any theories yourself? Share them with us in the comments below.
Join us next week for another history mystery.